Right, I apologize for being late. I wasn't having a date that requires having a girlfriend, so yeah. Wasn't doing that on Valentine's Day. But, still, I am late. I apologize for that. Also, thank you for 200 views on one of my videos. I am impressed and surprised. Who would have thought of all the ones there was? There was one on polygamy. Regardless, let us get into today's topic. When it comes to trust. Now, trust is important for a number of reasons. It's basically how willing you are to accept someone at their word, or that they're going to do what they plan on doing, that they will do right and proper. And needless to say, when it comes to relationships, one must be willing to trust. If everyone is in a constant state of paranoia, you end up with politics, and well, yeah, that's not exactly known for being very good for anyone involved or the people. Mostly not good for the people. And of course, relationships require cooperation. In order to cooperate, you need trust. After all, if you want to work together, even outside of, say, a romantic relationship, this is Valentine's Day, that is a big one, but even outside of that, you still need cooperation for just everyday things. For example, working on a project. Or, if it's a purely platonic situation with a friend, making sure that you coordinate and actually have fun whenever you hang out or want to do something together. You need to cooperate, and that requires trust. If you're constantly worried your friend's going to be playing video games when you're planning on meeting up to play some games in real life, like, say, basketball, or in board game sense, Settlers of Catan, well, that becomes very difficult. Because you're constantly worried they're not going to show up, and so you may not put in as much effort as needed to make the hangout functional and, fun. And of course, when you build a relationship, platonic, romantic, even sexual to some extent, you build trust and ensure loyalty. Now, when it's purely just a situationship, as they call it, or basically just screwing around, there's less trust built and loyalty ensured. There's several reasons for this, but the biggest is, although when you engage in relations, you generate certain hormones that encourage bonding between people, there's still a very real sense of this is purely for fun, or this is purely because I want to satisfy my lust. There is not a inherent belief of this relationship is gonna last forever. That's not the point. If it was, you'd be in an actual relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever. Who knows, maybe boyfriend, girlfriend, cat and cat. I don't think humans are cats, but honestly, with how things are going, people have done weirder. But if you were actually in a proper relationship, you would already understand your relationship to each other, and it would build trust and ensure loyalty. But when it's a pseudo relationship, like what we call situationships, which I henceforth call sleeping around because that's functionally what it is, not so much. And I'll be frank, since we're on the topic of such things, while skepticism can be advisable, one must be willing to take risks when it comes to trust. See, not everyone's trustworthy, that's just a plain fact. I would not trust myself. Sorry, I wouldn't trust you, and I would assume you wouldn't trust me because we don't know each other that well. To be fair, I wouldn't trust myself on several things because I know what I'm bad at. But still, skepticism is advisable when it comes to other people, especially if you don't know them. But in order to get to know someone, you need to take risks, to trust them at least a bit. If they betray you immediately, well, don't freaking trust them ever again. Or maybe eventually find a way to trust them. Regardless of what you do, some risks need to be taken. Because after all, if you don't put your hand out there, if you're not willing to shake and cooperate, no one's going to want to do it to you because you're going to be isolated. And so, while skepticism is fine, indeed, I would argue it's recommended in many situations to approach things with a bit of skepticism, you must be willing to take risks. After all, if you're not willing to go out there and say, hi, can we cooperate? Or hi, how are you? Do you want to be friends? People aren't willing to work together or start a relationship based on mutual trust with you. You need to be able to give trust in order to receive it. If you don't, then you're not going to have a proper relationship built on trust. Sure, people want transactional relationships too, just cooperation for the goals. But even then, you still need trust. Because after all, if you are doing this for a purpose to get something out of it, what guarantees do you have that the person who you're working with isn't just going to take their stuff and run? Technically, none. We are under no obligation by our biology to do so. I mean, unless you attach like a bomb to our heads, but I don't think that's been a thing yet. And so, you need trust, no matter what. And you need to be able to give it. And of course, with that, there's also the chance of betrayal. So what if someone betrays your trust? Well, then you gotta separate that from them for a period of time. It doesn't have to be forever, though, depending on the severity, I would recommend it. For example, an adulterer who cheats on you, cut them out of your life immediately. Abandon them. Do not pass go. Do not do anything else, but refuse to associate with them at all. Because they are untrustworthy, plainly, and to the highest degree. They must be isolated, socially ostracized. None of them must be tolerated. But if, for example, someone plans on doing something and forgets, you still need to acknowledge that betrayal of your trust. It doesn't have to be as severe, and it indeed could be quite short of saying, hey, I won't go to things with you because I don't believe you're actually going to show up for a few days, maybe a day, whatever. There still must be some separation for a bit to make it clear that if they are going to betray a trust, you are not going to trust them for a period of time. It doesn't have to be long, especially with more minor things like, for example, forgetting the days, but it does have to be something. And eventually, you can rekindle that trust and rebuild it, even if not to the same strength as before. And thus, build under the understanding that I am giving my trust to you, you are giving your trust to me, and we can work together. But if you do not give your trust to me, I will not give it to you. A relationship, when it comes to trust, cannot be one-sided. Because if it is one-sided, if it's only person B receiving trust, if only they are, well then person A over here, they physically are losing and mentally are losing. In every way, they gain nothing. Because while they are doing their best to help this person and trust them, the other isn't doing the same, and so it's a give relationship where the other only takes. What's supposed to happen is a true give and take of I give this, you give this, I take this, you take this. Cooperation. But if one side's giving only and the other side's taking only, well then you have a problem, fundamentally. So I have my hands look weird. But the thing with it all is, essentially, trust is required for anything to function when it comes to other people. Because in order to get things done, you have to trust that things will happen without you. Because you can't be everywhere at once. You can't be there watching your partner every waking hour of the day. Nor should that be advisable. Generally, people would call that stalking. You can't be with your family, or your boss, or your partners in work. Maybe you're a boss instead and you're worried about your employees. You can't be with all of them. You physically cannot, constantly observing. So instead you must have trust, the ability to say, I may not be observing my girlfriend or boyfriend, I may not be observing my mom and dad, I may not be observing my brother and sister, I may not be observing my boss or my employees, but they'll still do what is right even if I'm not there to observe them. Even if I'm not around to say, that is wrong, don't do that. Why? Because they're a functional human being and you should hope that they can do that. And it's from that trust, and everyone else doing the same to you, that you build a proper society. Because if you can trust that another person will do right, and they trust that you will as well, through repeated actions that confirm such trust, you'll gain people who are, highly trusting. And highly trusting people can cooperate easier. Things become less worrying. And, of course, it prevents problems like the tragedy of the commons, because if everyone agrees, here's how we're going to divide this, and we're going to follow these rules, then, you're not going to get a tragedy where everyone's rushing to do the same thing at once, destroying the resources that they do have. Why? Simple. They trust each other. And they believe that person B is going to follow the rules of the comments. So I will do as well, and so will person C, D, and E. That is how you avoid things like the tragedy of the commons. That is how you avoid civil wars and unrest. Give people a reason to trust. Give people a reason to care. It is also how you preserve a relationship, both romantic and platonic. Because whether it be your friends, or your spouse, or the person you're dating, if they have trust in you and you have trust in them, then you'll be able to have a long-lasting relationship. Because even when they're not there, they're not going to be worried about you, or at the very least not as much. They're not going to be thinking, is he betraying me? Is she doing something I don't know of? What's going on? Paranoia will not rise as much, and so people will be willing to relax. And they won't start thinking they must be doing a bad thing. Because if they are, well, it's a lot harder to get people out of their preconceived notions than it is to make a preconceived notion. Trust is the solid bedrock that allows relationships to function and cooperation to occur. Because otherwise, people are stabbing each other in the back. And so, trust is important, vital, and it must be encouraged. How that is done? There are a few ways. Obviously, giving your trust out to someone while still enforcing clear boundaries when it's broken is one way. There's also things like having similar backgrounds. Fact is, people are communal creatures with a bias towards themselves. So if they see something that reminds them of themselves, it's a lot easier to trust it. Good personalities also help. Kind and moral people generate trust. Go figure. And thus, from there, you can build a stronger, more trustworthy society. So take whatever route works best. Find those like you who are moral, and give out your trust and show that you will enforce it when it is broken. Have a good day, and I hope you enjoyed.